but yeah, I mean, you've done a lot of crazy great stuff the past years. I mean, just looking what you've done, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know all about this. Like, but yeah, I'd love to, talk a little bit about that. Obviously, you know so much about the influencer marketing space, probably a lot more than me too. And also you're an influencer yourself, so you have a different perspective on everything. But can you just tell me, like, give us like a mini just intro? Like, I know you have different businesses, like Wink Models. Is that your first business, or yeah? Tell me.
Yeah, so Wink was my first business. It's about 14 years old now. And we have about 600 models around Australia, predominantly Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. So I started that business when I was 21. And the idea was just to build an agency that was really different in market to what else was available. So we pay all of our models within 7 days, which was sort of very, very different to our competitors. I wanted it to be like a really safe and supportive environment for our models. And I wanted our clients to know that we would be like an extension of their team. We would really go above and beyond for them, and that we would be on their side. It didn't need to be combative. Like the industry had always been quite like a combative place. So yeah, that was sort of 18 years ago, and it's just been a great business, grown every year, got an amazing team. There's models that have been with us like nearly the entire length of time that I've had the agency. So yeah, it's amazing.
And how, I'm curious to hear your take on this. I feel like many the brands I meet, they some just end up like picking influencers as their models. How has that been like a shift the past, I guess, 18 years? Like, have you seen any changes in your business, like the models industry going down because everyone just go directly to Instagram and find people? Or what do you think about that? Like, I guess there's still brands out there that kind of focus on models, but why? Why?
It's definitely something that brands consider now when they're booking a model. They'll look at their social media profiles. They'll sometimes ask if, does this model have a high social following as well? Could we see her TikTok profile or Instagram profiles? I think for two reasons. One, they want to do a little bit of social vetting and make sure that, the model is on brand for them, because they're very aware if they're putting this person as the face of their brand or in a high profile campaign, that consumers will also be able to go and look at this person. And if there's a jarring misalignment of expectations there, then, won't resonate well for the brand. And two, they want that social proof. They want, a model who's got a really high number of followers is always going to book more jobs than one that doesn't. And that's usually because there's a real comfort from a brand's perspective of going, 100,000 other people say this person is good. They say that they like seeing her. She's visually appealing. Like that gives them that sense of sort of validation and trust that they're making good decisions. So, and of course, they also hope that the model's going to share the final campaign images. They're going to share behind the scenes content. So they're hopeful that they're going to get a little bit of extra social boost from it as well.
Nice. But would you say that you kind of are like running a influencer agency too? Like, do you try to get them extra deals? Is that the idea too? Like, if they partner up with you as a model, they kind of have these extra services around where you help them get more paid.
Yeah. And so basically now we have clients who book models for influencer work as well. So models that have a social following, who are content creators, and they've had years of experience behind the scenes. They know how to create great content, make great shots. And we also have influencers who then come on and join our modeling agency. So who again have sort of self-managed themselves, built a portfolio, grown an organic audience, and then they want someone to help them manage that. So we haven't seen a downturn in business overall. It's just changed the landscape. So brands are shooting more frequently than ever before because they now need to fill all of these social channels that they've got with fast turnaround, great content. So instead of probably doing a few big campaign shoots a year, they now do much more frequent, smaller shoots.
Yeah, yeah. I think like also everything with these social platforms, they like have built everything just that you need to feed in with more and more content, and you have to put them in different places like newsletter, website, and everything. So I'm curious to hear. Actually, this is just random, but I listened to a podcast called The Pitch. If you know about it, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's like, do you know about it? Okay,
Yeah.
but and I think one of the latest episode was about AI, like not AI influencers, but AI models. Um, and how they, because the whole like the struggle is for brand is like they would love to get all the different diversity, like people, sizes, and everything, and they can build a tool just to make that a lot easier. What do you think about that? Do you think it's the future, and how? I mean, you're in the business, so what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, when I first saw Sora come out and be like, that was just such an amazing, make such great video content now. I was like, oh my God, where is this going to end for us? But look, I think there's definitely some parts of the modeling and influencer industry that will be replaced by AI, like e-commerce shoots where it's just front, back, and sides, and you've got to have a model standing there all day, 16-hour days pumping out. Like no one wants to do that. The brand doesn't want to have to do that. The model doesn't want to do that. But then on the flip side, there's going to be a shift towards, I think, authenticity in content as well. Like I still, as a consumer, I want to see how a piece of clothing falls on a particular body type. And that's one of the reasons people love influencers so much, is that they can go, I follow this influencer because she looks like me. I aspire to be like that. I aspire to have her aesthetic. I can see how those jeans fit on her, or, she's got the same skin as me. I can use those products and I'll have a similar type of skin. So I think people do want that trusted, vetted, authentic testimonial piece, which I think can only come from human beings. It can't come from AI.
Yeah. I think this AI can be a little bit overhyped sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
But Josh, who you recommended me to talk with, he mentioned something in China that influencers are now, like, there's specific creators that is a specific size and everything, and then people are just following them just because of that. Like, I know she's this tall and this, and I just buy it. Like, it's kind of like,
They'll just go buy this product and people go, yes, buy. The live shopping thing is phenomenal there.
how is it in Australia? Is it becoming big or?
No, it hasn't. Look, TikTok, we don't have TikTok shop here yet.
No.
There's definitely a smoother path to check out now. Like brands are getting much better at integrating, obviously, just basically into Instagram shop and having creators to be able to post. Otherwise, it's platforms like LTK and using, affiliate links and going through to check out. So it's still not the smoothest of experiences. But yeah, the live selling piece hasn't kicked off in Australia yet. How about there?
No. Like it's I guess here in Europe, but I think it's the same in the US. I think people are talking about like it will come here, all the Chinese, they're buying like live cop, like in 1 hour they have their product in the restaurants. Josh mentioned something like that. Like they're live watching something, they post, like they buy it, like 1 hour later, they're just coming where you are. And I'm like, it would be cool to see that, but I don't think, like, especially in Europe, but maybe the same in the US, like we don't have the same population, like that, like, or the workforce to even run all that system. But I don't know, like the live copying I've seen, like they have like 1,000 views, like that's it, like, or like 500 people watching at the same time. I think it's hard to convert people if it's that low volume. And I think, Instagram, they already tried to do all that, like the live thing, like 2 years ago or three. I don't know if they're even pushing it or not. But what do you see, like with your creators and you're a creator yourself? Like, why wouldn't you just run a live copying with the brands you work with, or, like, yeah, tell me.
Live is starting to take off or people going live on TikTok is starting to take off here. There are creators that can make really decent money from that. Predominantly, they're people that offer some kind of expertise or something interesting. So I know, for example, of a friend is a tarot card reader, and she goes live on TikTok, and you can obviously tip her and she'll say, okay, great. Like, what's your question? I can do a reading for you, or I can give you some advice. So things like that. Or I think trainers, psychologists, dating coaches. So I think there's particular fields that can perform really well on in that sort of getting tipped for live content. I think from a brand perspective, it's just really hard for them to, one, understand how to work in that space, and two, to feel comfortable controlling the narrative when it's just live streaming. And there's no ability to sort of edit content, review the narrative before it goes live, control really the outcomes. So I'm not sure that brands will be jumping on it from an influence perspective yet, but I mean, I think wherever there's money, though, there'll always be an opportunity for brands to explore, right?
Exactly. No, I guess it's a little bit scary, and I think the things I've seen that maybe is not working too well with live shopping is kind of the opposite what you just mentioned, not bringing any value. They just like showing their products like classic TV shop. I don't think that's too fun and entertainment to watch. I think it's more fun to maybe get value, like getting help of, the things you just mentioned, like these are the exercise you should do. This is how you build up, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think that makes sense. But the things I've seen with the tools out there, like Bambooser, which is probably a great tool, when you give those tools to brands and like go for live copying, and they're like, yeah, but I'm not a producer. I'm just an employee. Like going up there, it won't feel so natural. Like it's hard. And I feel like, I think if you're gonna do live copying, you need to really do it in the right way and have the right expertise in house. And I don't think I don't think they have those type of people in house. So they probably need to find someone else like doing the script and all that.
Yeah, and they're just struggling to get their heads around TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and maybe Snapchat. Right? Like, I think growing another content pillar that they need to fill. I think it's too much right now.
Yeah, I think so too. But tell me a little more about your other business, hashtag Gifted. How come you started that? I mean, you have all the insights about all the brands and on the creator side, so I'm sure you kind of find a gap or something. But tell me, how come you started hashtag Gifted, and what is it?
Yeah. So I was seeing a gap from both sides of the market, because as a creator myself, there was times that brands would slide into my DMs or they would email me and they'd offer me something, and I'd sort of be like, no, maybe. Like there'd be times that I wanted things, times that I didn't. And I also felt really bad when, they'd be like, hey, we'd love to gift you this thing. And you're like, sorry, like I actually charge a fee for posts.
Yeah.
Awkward. And then on the flip side, there'd be times where I do want things or need things, like I'm going to Brisbane and I need a night's free hotel stay. And so I'd be sliding into brands' DMs. I'm sure it was equally awkward for them. And then other times I would just get unsolicited products sent to the office, and I would feel so bad because I knew that these brands had spent so much money sending those products out or hiring a PR agency. And so it just felt really like cringe. And from a brand side, there was so many brands coming to us saying, we've got this fantastic thing, whether it's free restaurant visits or these amazing clothes or whatever, we want to gift influencers. And there was no streamlined way for them to do that. It was, they'd come to the modeling agency or contact me and say, do you know an agency that could run this on our behalf? And so I thought, okay, there's got to be a better way to streamline this using technology and just make it no ick factor, no awkwardness. Just brands can list what they're willing to give away, what their gifting campaign is all about. And then influencers who genuinely want to try that product or service, receive it, they opt in, both the parties chat, just streamlining that whole process. And we capture the content at the end. So brands don't have to follow up and say, hey, I missed that story on the weekend. Can you send it? So the friction out of contra collabs.
I love that. I love that. And on the creator side, like you as a creator, like when you get these emails and DMs, what is usually a big no? Like if you could give any tips and tricks to brands when they reach out to people and creators, what should they avoid and how should they kind of do the whole outreach to kind of get your attention, I guess? Obviously, using hashtag gifts is the best way. I mean, if you want to get that connection.
Well, yeah, definitely use Gifted. But look, I think it's really hard for brands. I really appreciate the challenge because my advice would be make it personal. Like send them a personalized email or a personalized DM. DMs now are always going to go in the other folder as well, which is annoying. So try not to make it look like spam with lots of emojis in it or whatever. If you're going to send an email, like try to personalize it, which I understand is challenging to do at volume and at scale. So, but try to mention, why it is you're choosing them, what it is that you like about them, why you think they would resonate with your brand, encapsulate all of that. And then try and be really open with them in what the exchange could look like. So, not being too dictatorial, whether it's a paid campaign or a contra campaign, like don't be really dictatorial. Don't say, we need X, Y, and Z specific things. You must go live on these dates. It must include this. We want it shot outside. You must be wearing these colors. Like it just misses the whole point of influence marketing. That is, it's not here to be an ad. It's supposed to be something authentic in their tone of voice, in their style, in a way that they know is going to resonate with their followers. So I think if you treat them with that sort of trust and respect that they are the content creator, the creative director, the script writer, the editor, if you give them that respect, they can make magic for your brand, but you have to work collaboratively to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think when it's too stricted briefs or scripts, it will become so bad. Like, maybe, I mean, you have experience, like when you get these scripts, like you cannot say that. You need to say this. And when you kind of record the video, are you just thinking in the head like, and it becomes really bad or...
Yeah. And it feels like exactly. And all of your followers can tell and hear that in your voice and your tone. Or they can read the caption and go, it's not her usual tone of voice. It's not how she would speak or say that. It just, all for the brand wanting to have control over like 3 or 4 words. They can just ruin the whole flow of something. So I understand from their perspective, it's a bit scary to hand over control and trust and, so I understand, but yeah, it's about getting comfortable with like, this is the medium, this is the channel, this is how you need to execute it.
Yeah. I think many brands overthink and think that if it goes bad, it will be like a PR disaster. But honestly, most creators, like even if they have like 50K followers or 100K followers, they're still very small compared to like the whole market. So if it's something goes, like people won't even remember it, like with all the stories we watch and all the different platforms, like if you get.
So true. It's so true. It's going to blow over.
Yeah, it's better to take the risk.
Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Nice. But now, I mean, obviously, I know you also help brands work with creators and I guess sourcing them, finding them, evaluating them, and pushing for campaigns. When you, and also because you're on the other side too, when you kind of evaluate creators out there, what would you say are like the red flag when you check their feed and like, whoa, that's next one? What do you look at? And what are the positive things like, wow, okay, when you do all this and this, that's perfect. Let's go with her. Like, do you have like a few tips and tricks to brands that kind of want to source themselves?
Yeah. So from a brand perspective, we're always looking for a few things. So have they worked with a competitor? And that's not necessarily a no-go zone that we would never work with them. Obviously, for example, in beauty, it's totally fine that an influencer works with a number of different brands. But we would just want to know. So we either have the influencer disclose that or we'll go back through their feed and see what other brands they've been working with. Have they posted anything that could be controversial, could be polarizing, especially with everything that's going on in the world at the moment? Most brands want to stay far, far away from anything that's sort of political activism or could just be, polarizing for their audiences. So we'll look for things like that. We're obviously looking for how organic their audience is as well. There's obviously lots of amazing tools out there that can do this identification as well. But I think there's always worth having a last look yourself and going through what sort of comments are they getting? Are they in an engagement pod? Like, is it all the same people commenting on their posts? Are they actually commenting things that are really relevant to that post? So are they saying, what size are you wearing in this jumper? Like, what sort of fit is it? Is it tight or like a larger fit? Or are they just saying nice photo or you look great, babe? We want to be finding people who are genuinely, interested in the products that this creator promotes. And then we're also looking for how creative are they in their storytelling? Like, can they come up with really cool narratives? Can they really bring the brand to life in a way that's going to cut through? Because as you just touched on, like we all, engage with such a plethora of content every single day. We want to try and find those creators, irrespective of their audience size, that are really going to get cut through. So who can create something that, isn't just buy this product, but is something a little bit more meaningful. So they're the kind of things that we're looking for. And so I think from a creator's perspective, I think it's about posting consistently. Probably the last one is, do they reply to their comments and really try and engage with their audience? So are they on there genuinely responding to things, building, genuine responses and community with their audience? Because that's obviously really valuable for a brand. We want to know that if people are sliding into their DMs with questions about the product or service, that they're going to be responding and they care about their audience to respond to them. So Yeah, they're probably the sort of key things that we're looking for. So I think from a brand side, just get really clear on what you're trying to achieve too, and try and think about. I think a lot of people get caught up in vanity metrics around the size of the audience, engagement rate. Those things are obviously important depending on what you're trying to achieve. But sometimes they can just be vanity metrics and not really, like, when you're digging into where their audience is based is obviously very important, from a country perspective. The gender breakdown, obviously if you're a female product and you're working with a female influencer, you want them to have a high female following, not a high male following. So make sure that people are following for the right reasons. So I think digging into all of those things is important, and not getting too stuck on, like, we just need to have someone with 100,000 followers and minimum 2% engagement rate. Unfortunately, it's quite subjective. You need to take all of those things into consideration.
Yeah, I think another metric that's great, like it's great summary. But I think also if they, but then we can correct me if I'm wrong. But if they post a lot of stories and kind of like building their audience and talking like FaceTime feeling, is that still a thing? Like before, it was like when it's too much, it's just too much stories and people don't care and then just go to the next one. But would you say that's a thing, like that's really good, or is it bad to have a lot of stories? Like, what's your take on that?
I think it depends on the reach that your stories are getting, and if people are engaging with them. So a lot of creators now, especially with the new features that have just rolled out on Instagram, a lot of creators are trying to use polls, sticker reveals, things that actually force someone to engage with the piece of content. That will obviously help the algorithm boost your content and say this is good content. It's getting engaged with by a lot of their audience. So if someone has a high reach on stories and gets good engagement, then absolutely, like, they should just, to a point, they should be doing more, and that should be their best channel, as opposed to spending too much time on curating in-feed content. All of the platforms will penalize you if you don't use all of the features. So if you never post in-feed content, then Instagram will penalize you. If you never use stories, Instagram will penalize you. So they want to see you using a balance of all the tools, liking, commenting, replying to messages. All of those things will be favorable in making sure that your content gets eyeballs. So I think it very, very much varies from creator to creator as to what works and what also they authentically feel comfortable with. Like, do they feel comfortable talking to camera? Are they good at, shaping a narrative, or does it come across as contrived?
But aren't the best creators the ones that are comfortable talking in the camera, right? Yeah.
Always.
Oh, not necessarily.
Yeah. No, yeah, it depends. So, like, some creators just make incredibly beautiful visual content. Like, I'm thinking of some of the top fashion influencers where you're just like, wow, like, she looks incredible. I want that outfit. I love those shoes. Like, amazing, amazing. But I wouldn't know, at all what her voice sounds like, and I've never heard her speak or anything like that. So, yeah. And then there's other creators who, yes, like, are really raw and really authentic, and, perhaps talk a lot more about their day-to-day life or their work challenges or things like that. And that's why I think people feel, I guess you have a broader range of things and products that you can work with and promote in that space. And I think most good influencers just say no to campaigns as much as they say yes. I think they're very good at identifying, this is something I truly, believe in, like, can authentically promote to my audience.
Yeah. I always thought like the ones that are like very out there, talking a lot, they're building trust easily, and that's where you can sell your products. But you would then say like you could definitely go with a sales campaign, like a sales focused campaign with someone that is not too out there, like just very visually great, or yeah.
Yeah. There was a big trend, I think it's probably dying off a bit now, but of headless content, like content where you never saw the person's face. They were just aesthetically cool or whatever it might be. So I think, and interiors, where people just share photos of their beautiful interior design houses and things like that. So I think really depends sector by sector as to what works. And creator by creator as to what their content needs.
Yeah. But when you evaluate the creators, I mean, obviously you're checking all the key points you mentioned, and now when you touch on like story views, do you get a screenshots from the story views, and how do you look at that? Like, do you have any benchmark on, I guess, engagement, story views, and do you calculate CPM? Like, tell me about those type of metrics. Do you evaluate that?
Yeah, it depends on what the brand is looking to achieve and where stories would fall into their program. So if they're looking for direct, like call to actions, like swipe up to buy tickets or swipe up to, shop this range, then absolutely we'd be looking for like how do people previously engage with campaigns like that. Usually we'll ask the creator for screenshots from their social profiles, and also if they've worked on a similar campaign, what the click-through rates were. So we can get an indicative idea of measuring out the cost for that creator. We have actually had a lot of brands recently who are shifting to doing just stories, because in-feed posts are getting so expensive, the real estate for them to buy that in-feed post, whereas Instagram stories are much more affordable, and they can track those conversion metrics in a much easier way. They can give them a UTM link and directly see how much traffic that person's drove to site. So it's definitely a one of the channels that it used to be something that brands would add on as like oh, well, if they're doing a post, we'll have them do some stories as well. But now it's like, yeah, just want stories, which I think is, it's great. It's good for a creator too. Like, I think there's a lot more flexibility in how they can, curate the content there, and win-win.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they can be a little bit more free because it will disappear after 24 hours. But if it's the feed, it's like, this is like the
Yeah,
whole, this
exactly.
is... Yeah, that's like,
Primary.
yeah, it's actually a recommendation I usually give to brands, like if they want to come down in price and they get a big package of like one feed post, 5 stories, and something else. I'm like, just remove the feed post. Like, it won't give you that much. It's nice to have it. There's like SEO, it stays there, it's nice visually. But if you just want to drive traffic, it doesn't like it's just better to go with stories. But what's the trend in Australia? Like, I know here in Europe, especially in Germany, the whole discount code type of collaborations where you one-offs and you want to drive traffic the first time or second story is kind of not working pretty well now. Like, it's a lot harder. What's the trend then? What's the pulse in Australia? Like, how do all the brands work, and what's working right now?
Yeah, especially because it's been a tough economic climate as well, which I think is the case globally. So I think consumers are much more hesitant to try a new brand, and there's many more touch points required before they'll make that purchase decision. So I think that the good old days where, people would just see an influencer promoting a product and, 20% off. Yeah, okay, I'll try it and buy it now. I think, I think brands have to be a lot savvier in how they build trust with that audience over time to get them to convert. We've definitely seen an increase in the number of people working with nano and micro influencers. Like, that's definitely that's continuing. I think partly based on pricing, partly based on the fact that they know they can usually get better conversions that way, and that they can find really niche people that haven't been oversaturated in the market yet, that, are maybe doing their first, or, they've only done a handful of collabs before, so they can get that, again, I hate this word, but that authenticity again. And then again, TikTok, like brands just shifting towards TikTok because it's so much more affordable for them. The SEO reach, as you mentioned, like is really powerful for a brand. And depending on the vertical, so many consumers use TikTok now as their sort of search engine. It's where they're going to look up great restaurants near them, or, even tips on how to do something. It's their first sort of port of call for search. So brands know they want to play in that space, and they know that it's quite, as you touched on earlier, it's quite hard for brands to create that content in-house. They know that to stay abreast of all of the trends and how they should be showing up on TikTok and what the right tone of voice is, that it's much easier and safer to work with a creator that knows how to do that. So definitely the shift towards TikTok.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think that's something brands forget. Like, if you run anything on TikTok, it stays there and it's searchable.
Yeah.
So that's a big win. But what do you think? So, especially for startups, that don't have any kind of trust or brand, what do you say? What are your tips and tricks to build that trust a little bit faster, so you later can actually convert through creators and the bigger ones and the discount codes? I know it's
Yeah.
harder for all the brands there, but do you have like any type of strategy that you recommend to your clients when they come to you, like if we're a nobody or we just getting started with influencer, like how do you
Yes.
build that trust? Like what's the timeline? Like should you, then you need maybe to invest 6 months or yeah, tell me a little bit about that. Like how do you build trust with creators if you're new?
Yeah. I always say, I think some brands come and they're, a brand new brand. They've got no social proof. They don't have any reviews on their e-commerce platforms. And they're like, we just want to book, 10 really big creators and, that's it, job done, brand established. And I'm like, doesn't work like that, You could have 10, people with 1 million followers post about your brand. You might get a few sales and then everyone's going to forget about you. Like, does not work like that. So I always say to them, you've got to make sure you're set up for success first. So like make sure you've actually got reviews on your website. You've got content on your own social profiles that is aspirational and, on brand. And you can't just have people coming to a social profile that's got like 3 or 4 posts on it and nothing there. Like you need to spend some time building that out first. And if that's, that can be a case of just working with a bunch of micro influencers, contra only, if you've got tight budgets, like build up that, initial sort of interest and social proof and UGC content that you can use on your social profiles. And then it's about, I always think you've got to have an always on strategy. Like absolutely you should be doing burst campaigns as well when you've got new products dropping or yes, when you're launching, great, do a bigger burst then. But you need to have these always on strategies and they don't need to be expensive. Like if you can hire a digital native who's like super young, really into TikTok, knows how to do it, just get them shooting content really regularly. Just get, it doesn't have to be high production value. Just, you can in-house that skill if you're, willing to find that person that has that sort of particular skill set. Maybe they're an influencer themselves, but just a digital native. And then I think finding and building really deep relationships with creators over time for a couple of reasons. You can get really great feedback from them on your actual product, on what customers want. If you find people who genuinely love, I don't know, your health and wellness brand, and you find micro influencers who are really deeply into that, who are going to be like almost an extended part of your team. Not only are they like making content for you, they're talking about you online, they're telling their friends about you at the gym, they're coming back to you and saying, hey, this new brand's just launched, or, oh, the packaging wasn't really great this month. We had these issues. So, there's so many great creators out there who are so passionate about brands or particular verticals. Find them and work with them. And then I always say to brands, go through your follower list and people who are already engaging with you or customers who are ever buying you and look and see in there. You'll often find that there's people who are like diehard, fans of your brand who absolutely, would love, your product. Go through, reach out with them, get in touch with them, see how you can bring them into the fold for UGC or, it can cost you nothing, maybe just some, contra product. So it's an often missed opportunity.
That's smart. Yeah. I heard that also from someone else. He was actually going into his Shopify e-commerce, like the customer list, and just
Yeah.
checking the ones that maybe done like 4 or 5 purchases the past 6 months and just Google their name to find their Instagram. And if it's open and they have a few thousand or even bigger, they're like, oh, this is a perfect, like, let's DM her.
Yeah, exactly. Like I did when I had with my last business, right before I sold it, I would do the first hour and last hour of customer service every day for like the first 4 years. And I would do exactly that. I would always like, wow, why are we all of a sudden getting all these people signing up in Singapore and what are they looking for and how do they hear about us? And I'd get on the phone and I'd, speak to them and it's invaluable. You can find people who become your biggest advocates.
Yeah, yeah. But you said something about creators building trust or building this relationship. And you as a creator, like, what are the things, the brands where you feel like you have the best relationship with, what are they doing to you so you get that feeling and like, wow, this is the best brand, I love them, you talk about your friend, what should they do to build that relationship? Because it's one thing to say, yeah, that's the key, but is it like more emails or just WhatsApping? Like, tell me.
Definitely long-term relationships. So I think I'm in a privileged position where this is something I get to do, being an influencer is something I get to do on the side of, having a career. So I don't have to, worry about using it to pay the bills. So I can be little bit choosier in who I work with. But for me, it's about long-term partnerships because I really deeply value my audience. I know people trust me and they trust what I have to say, and I take that very seriously. I don't want to promote products that I don't deeply believe in or brands that I can't get behind because it's reputationally damaging on both sides. I don't want them having, a negative interaction either. So for me, it's about, I would much prefer to have long-term relationships so I can really get to know the brand, get to know their values, the team. It means that I can tell better stories long-term about that brand as well. And I can have more touch points with people if I really know deeply about the brand and what they're trying to achieve and everything about the sort of inner mechanisms of that company. So long-term partnerships are definitely preferred. Brands where it's very clear that they want the relationship to be mutually beneficial and that they're open to ideas, they're open to input. One of the brand partners I have is La Prairie Skincare, and it's such a mutually beneficial relationship. I'll go to them with proposals for, I have this idea, we could work on this, luncheon series together, or we could do this thing together. And they're super open to those proposals. And on the flip side, they have an incredible marketing team, incredible marketing ideas. And they're very, very clear about what the brand is, what it stands for, how to go to market with it. And so it's a really easy alignment that makes sense from both sides. So I think, brands that are really open for it to being collaborative and a mutually beneficial sort of long-term win. And then brands that I genuinely love and believe in and care about and that I think my audience would really love. Often, I'm in technology. Often it's technology brands and products, that I use, that I love, that, someone from their PR team will reach out and I go, oh my God, I love this product. It's like streamlined my workflow. It's been so useful to me. So those things are just like, it's the excitement of going, this is a product, I use, I genuinely love. Like, I know this would be so helpful.
Yeah, it makes everything a lot easier when you love it too. Like, genuinely love it.
Totally.
Nice. But as a final point, what do you see? Maybe general, like globally, but or just in Australia. What are the trends, the future of influencer marketing? What would you say are coming up?
Yeah, I think brands are getting so much savvier in understanding working with influencers, which is fantastic. They're finally thinking about using professional vetting tools or tools to discover influencers, which is great, as opposed to this sort of unstructured sliding into DMs or just every brand working with the same 30 creators because they're like the known creators. So I think that's awesome because it means, we're starting to see that sophistication, which means campaigns are going to go really well. Everyone wins. People have a great view of influencer marketing because I think there's a period there where everyone was a bit cringe about influencer marketing. Oh, it doesn't work or whatever. No, it does. You just have to do it well. So I think that's one really pleasing trend. I think the conversation around AI has become really interesting. Brands talking about how they can use AI discovery tools or using it in their workflows because obviously, as we both know, still quite a manual process of, going back and forth with the creator, editing content, asking for, reshoots or re-edits, changing captions. That can be really time consuming for a brand. So I think there's some very initial interest in either using AI for, improvement of workflows or looking for tools that they can improve workflows with. And also, are there parts of their content that they can create with AI? So take pain out of, I think, social media managers' day-to-day life. I think that's definitely a trend and a big conversation topic with a lot of marketers that I'm talking to at the moment, and using AI to get better results, measurement, and really understanding how campaigns. And I think the other big topic on everyone's lips at the moment is, TikTok in the US. Is it going to be banned? Is there going to be a forced sale? What does that mean? Does it mean that algorithm's going to be sold as well or not sold? And is it the end of TikTok? Are we all coming back to Instagram? So that's
What do you
big
think?
TV.
What do you think if you would just predict?
If I was spitballing, look, I would say I definitely think there's going to have to be that it's going to be sold. Like they will simply not allow it to stay under sort of part CCP ownership. I don't think that ByteDance Global will sell the algorithm with it, so I don't see how it's going to be a viable platform without that, because that's the one thing that makes it so magical and
Mm.
so addictive. So, yeah, I think recreating that magic would be incredibly challenging. It's built on, decades of data and
Yeah.
iteration. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting time. What do you think?
I've been listening also to different podcasts. I think, yeah, that's the thing. They won't sell the algorithm, and if they just sell the 150 million users plus the name, it will be just Instagram or a YouTube short. It will be it's just a piece of like it's just an app with a lot of content, but
Yeah.
but it won't be worth too much. But I think there's probably investors out there that kind of coming together just to, I guess, get a give a proposal just to buy the TikTok name and see what it can do. But if they do that and they still have the name, but they don't have the algorithm, you would. I don't think it will work. I'm not sure if it will work. So I think it definitely will be banned. If I feel like it's just based on the few podcasts I've been listening to, they're very firm on like, no, let's ban this. Like because you forget like you cannot. I don't think you can use Instagram, Facebook, and those tools in China, right?
Yeah.
So then they think to say like, okay, but then we should just ban TikTok.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, but this is now we're going to different subject, but I think there's a lot of people in the US now just scared of this kind of TikTok kind of surveilling, like, watching everything. They have no proof, but they still get that feeling, and then let's just shut it down. So I think, yeah, I hope it doesn't spread to Europe and Australia. I think hope we can just, have TikTok as it is. But let's see what happens. Yeah, I think it definitely will be banned, like for sure. So let's see what happens. Maybe it's TikTok Lite bad version will be there, and
Yeah.
Instagram will take it all.
Yeah.
It's
I
crazy.
think Europe is always so much more advanced than the US in your regulation and, dealing with things like this. So I'm amazed that it hasn't happened there first, to be honest. That
Yeah,
really
yeah,
dealt with how the content was handled and, access to international data from the
yeah.
CCP. I would have thought that they would have been ahead of the curve, but I guess they don't have as many issues maybe with China as the US does.
As I think it's a political thing. I don't think there's maybe that's the reason why Europe doesn't like do too much about. I don't know, but yeah, let's see what happens. But this was amazing. Like this was really lovely. I mean, you know so much. So really, thanks for hopping on.
No, it was so great to chat. I really enjoyed it.